Good morning, Deputy Mayor, Councillors, CEO, Directors, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to be back in the chambers. The traditional custodians, the land that we call home in our valley, the Yuwi people, represent a human connection dating back almost 60,000 years. And so whenever we gather together as a council and as a community, we pay our respects to the traditional custodians and honour their elders, past, present, and those emerging. This meeting, of course, is being streamed live in accordance with our bylaws, and everything, of course, will be published in accordance with the standing orders, and all of the images and voices and comments recorded and published, as you know. So, there's no other members in the public gallery this morning, so I don't have to read the Riot Act. So, I declare the meeting open, and note everybody's attendance. Also note that the CEO is away on sick leave, and the attendance today of our acting CEO, Angela Hayes. Thank you very much, Angela. And there's new leadership in the Mackay Corps of the Salvation Army. And Lieutenant David Dobby is here today. Welcome, David, and would you lead us in prayer for the opening of the council meeting?
Let's pray. Lord, as we meet in this place today, we're reminded that you are a good, good Father. With this in mind, we each pray for and lift up our own local leadership for your blessing and gracious intervention. In appreciation of their service and responsibilities, we come before you with their needs in reverence, as well as seeking for peace and healing across our nation. Thank you for our Mayor, Greg Williamson, and the councillors who serve the people of our city. I pray that they would serve with renewed strength to address the needs of our community. Lord, today many of the cities and towns in Australia are in turmoil because of the recent floods. We think of them today as they are experiencing the loss of loved ones, the loss of property, crops, or even livestock. Lord, as people living in these locations find themselves at the crossroads and in deep need of guidance and blessing, we ask that you make yourself known to them in their hour of need. I ask today that where possible you lay it on the hearts of our own council to support in this situation if there is an opportunity. This morning I seek your blessing and favour upon our mayor and councillors of this great region of Mackay. May they engage with the citizens in proactive measures to continue to apply strategies for health and safety, as well as launching a solid plan for the economy. May there be a balanced strategy to address the collective needs of Mackay and its surrounding area, with individual enablement for each citizen to be able to move forward in positive participation in our community. We pray for outstanding leadership at this time, so we look to your perfect example of leadership, of love and compassion for each other. Thank you for your good and gracious favour which you bestow willingly on people as we pray in intercession at this crucial and critical time in our history. We look to you, Lord, as our Saviour and Redeemer. Give our Mayor and Councillors capable assistance through the administration and staff serving our city. May each one gladly contribute in any way, whether humble or significant. We pray for unity of purpose, so that good strategies and plans may be implemented quickly. Lord, we ask that you bless the Mackay City Council as they meet today. Provide for and protect each member and their families in these days. In Jesus' name we pray, with praise and honour. Amen.
Amen. Thanks very much, Lieutenant Dobby, and once again, welcome to Mackay.
Thank you.
Nobody absent on council business. No apologies today. Condolences, councillors? Condolences? No condolences. Let's move on. Any conflicts of interest to declare today? None, thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of the 23rd of February, the ordinary meeting for council. They've been distributed. We've had nothing back on those minutes. Would somebody like to move the adoption, please? Councillor Mann moves, Councillor Green seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried, thank you. Business arising, there's only one update on the questions arising out of the last minute, and that's attachment 8.1.1, page 5 of your agenda. No mayoral minutes today. The consideration of committee reports and recommendations. First of all, the Audit Committee, the minutes of the meeting of the 24th of February. They've been circulated. It was a meeting which saw the retirement of the chair, Peter Tate. He'd served diligently and a very good local chair for our Audit and Risk Advisory Committee. It's sad to see Peter go, and we welcomed a new member, Monica McKendry, who's also a local. So the minutes are there. Somebody like to move the adoption?
I have a question.
You got a
question?
Okay.
I just note in the internal human resources employee misconduct investigations, I don't recollect ever seeing the chair closing the meeting for a closed session before. I understand that this is a confidential arrangement, but I personally, as a council, would like to understand what that was about, and I'd like to see 611 internal audit report in person, if that's okay.
All right. Well, we'll take that on notice, and obviously, if it was done in a closed session, we can't talk about it right now at this time.
I understand.
But we'll put that forward.
Thank you.
Councillor Bella moves. Seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor Bell.
I will be brief. The Audit Committee is once again doing some great work. I'd like to commend the council officers that contribute and present at those meetings. I'll be quite blunt in saying that it is very disappointing seeing Mr. Tate retire. Both he and Mr. Cronin are not only good at their role, but they actually have a care for the area and for this council. So I wish Mr. Tate all the best in the future and look forward to Mr. Cronin carrying on. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Bella. Are there any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Thank you. All right, let's move on then. Sustainability Environment Advisory Committee meeting, and the minutes are circulated at 10.2. Are there any questions? No questions? Somebody like to move the adoption? Councillor May moves. Councillor Green seconds. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Worship. Just a few highlights from the minutes. The report by Robin Burkhardt and Councillor Jones from the Coast to Coast conference that they attended was presented to the committee. Our Director, Alita Nugent, and Manager Andrew Davison gave an overview of the new parks and environment structure and how that is proceeding. So we had a very good update on that. Also, Tim our Sustainability Officer, gave an update on our establishment of the Sustainability Executive Group, and there's 3 working groups that are in the process of being formulated to help sustainability and environment be distributed across the whole organisation. So it doesn't just sit in one area, it's about getting that reach across the whole organisation. And we had Katrina Dent from Reef Catchments give us a presentation on the Mackay Rumble to Reef project. Council has already been briefed on that project. One of the interesting parts to come out of the meeting was the North Queensland Bulk Ports in their update. They produced a video from the yarning circle that they helped create at the Bowen State School, and the timber that came from the poles, the totem poles, was from the Bowen Wharf, and they reused those. And look, if you get a chance to go onto North Queensland Bulk Ports and have a look at that video, it is truly inspirational, very good, very well received. And of course, Councillor Green is always very passionate about STEM in our area, and she highlighted to the members about the Festival of STEM coming up on the 11th to the 15th of June, and encourage people to become involved in that. It's a very important part for our region.
Thanks very much. Councillor May, speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Thank you. Correspondence and Officers Report 11.1.1, the Office of the Mayor and CEO Monthly Review for February. Thank you, CEO.
Thank you, Your Worship. So it is indeed good to be back in council chambers now with the easing of COVID restrictions, and I would just like to give a massive thank you to the MEC team for hosting us for the last few months while we've had to go through that period. So during February, there were no lost time injuries across council, which is very pleasing to report. However, we did see a continued increase in the number of days lost from prior incidents. For this financial year, we currently have a total of 8 LTIs and a collective total of 76 days lost for the year to date thus far. You may also have noticed a continuing trend with our frontline staff suffering verbal abuse from customers that they're interacting with. This is continuing, and I did want to reassure you that we are very conscious of this and are doing all we can to provide additional support to our staff that are engaging in these interactions. In good news, we've now received more than $19 million in external funding to support community projects for council, which is in line with budget expectations. For the month of February, you might also note there are a couple of new additions in terms of sections to this report. Business improvement and emergency management areas have now been included in the report in line with our temporary internal changes, which have been set up to support the establishment of our business improvement initiative. While I'm on the topic of emergency management, I would like to take a quick moment just to recognise the contribution of our local team to the flood response and recovery efforts in Brisbane and surrounding areas. So we've sent down a contingent of volunteers from the Mackay region SES units, and they also were accompanied by members from Isaac and Whitsunday regions as well. They deployed to affected areas, assisting the Brisbane SES crews with things like roof repairs, sandbagging, and taking various roles within the Emergency Operations Centre. That was deeply appreciated, and the team did some long hours while they were there. Now, our emergency management team had also offered their assistance and were here physically on standby to see if they could virtually assist with any of those centre operations. It was just such a wonderful thing to see their community spirit and teamwork, and they're a real credit to our region. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, CEO. Questions for the CEO? Councillor Seymour.
Yes, what I ask is, there's aggression towards council staff. Is there any repeat offenders in that? Like, I read there's somewhere with on private property, on road reserves and that. Is it ongoing with these?
The incidents that we've been seeing recently are not repeat offenders. It is a series of new offenders, if you like. And when we do see a significant level of behaviour like this within one of our facilities, we do issue community members with temporary bans as well on being able to return to our facilities.
Thanks, Councillor Seymour. Further questions for the CEO? Councillor Bonanjura.
Just a couple, Your Worship. Top of page 32, under workplace health and safety, the dot point says develop additional job demand checklists to add to the library. Now, it's obviously in the work health and safety area. I was just wondering if the director or the CEO could give me a little bit more detail or an example of what would be involved. So I understand it's work and safety, but please.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So the job demands checklist is a document that's very specific to certain roles within council. So where some roles will require a medical checkup for people to be able to perform them, this goes to the next level of detail around what are the physical capabilities required to perform that role safely. So an example could be for some of our library staff, there might be requirements in the job demands checklist that would say you need to be able to lift X amount of kilos safely, bend down to shelf books, etc. safely, be able to be on your feet for an extended period of time. So it lists out those physical requirements that are inherent to the role to make sure we can safely ensure our team can do those.
Very good. That is excellent. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bonaventura. Councillor Angler?
Thank you, Worship. I was just wondering, I've asked for it previously, if we could reinsert the SES volunteer numbers per group. I've said before that the SES operational capability graph isn't of much use to me without the context of numbers per group, and so I'm asking again, can we have that reinstated?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Councillor May.
I was just going to follow on from Councillor Bonaventura's question. Are those requirements across all of the council department, that checklist, does that work across all council areas, or is it just specific to certain departments?
Yeah, thank you. It's not widespread at the moment. We do it whenever we have to help support someone through a fitness for work process to make sure we clearly understand what the inherent requirements are. But that's the reference to adding further ones to the library. We're growing that over time. So it doesn't right now exist for everything, but we're building our capability in that space.
Sorry, can I just ask a follow-up question? How is that received by the staff? In having to fill out the checklist, I suppose.
So at the moment, I think the intent in making it a document that's not attached to a fitness for work is to actually make it a better experience for our team. If the first time they're going through an experience like this is in a fitness for work process, there's generally some physical limitations and issues that they're currently experiencing, which can lead to a bit of anxiety on the part of the team member when they're going through it then. So if we have that clarity up front and everyone understands that these are the inherent requirements, I think it will make that process much better.
Thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Hassan?
Thank you, Worship. On page 38, there's a picture of SES volunteers assisting to retrieve broken binoculars from the lookout. I just wondered if was that due to an act of vandalism or something else, and had that been replaced?
CEO.
Thank you.
Good question.
It was indeed an act of vandalism, and yes, they did recover them.
And they've been replaced?
I'm not sure if they've been replaced yet. I'm not sure what the extent of damage was when they were recovered, but that's an ongoing process.
That's a really popular.
Yes. Correct. So, Councillor Bonaventura, you have another question?
Yes. Worship, this is on page 33. There's a graph there called Administrative Action Complaints, and the results appear very similar to last year. The anomaly in it is November in both years appears to be high, well above, in some places 3 times what it is in other months. So just wondering whether the CEO might be able to find a reason or maybe give me some detail at some stage on what causes that November anomaly.
Spike. CEO, do we know?
Thank you, Mayor. We do actually know for this November just gone, November 20, so we can assign that to a system issue. So the increase is primarily from the PIN rather than other enforcement, so a penalty in infringement notices. And in this case, our teams that drive around issuing parking ticket fines, their devices weren't registering permit holders. So they issued a lot of fines to people that did in fact hold a permit, and they were all subsequently appealed, which went through. So that was the increase in November 21. That was not the same incident that occurred in November 2020. So there's no immediate recollection of what might have caused the spike back then. It would have been a different issue. So it may just be an unfortunate coincidence that it's November both years. But I'd need to investigate that one further.
All right. Thank you, Worship. If something is found that's out of the ordinary, I'd appreciate it. Otherwise, thank you for the answer.
Thank you. All right. Any further questions? No further questions? Somebody like to move the reports of adoption? Councillor May moves. Seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Extensive report. The Office of the Mayor and CEO is growing. We have governance now included in that, and then this month we see the addition of the business improvement and emergency management areas being reported as well. No Council and Community Day again last month due to the COVID requirements, but we're looking to have that back on track in April, so that's something that we're currently working on. It's great to see the continual flow of external funds, you know, with another $19 million in this particular month, and we see some great projects there being funded with the Serena Neighbourhood Centre and the local government infrastructure financial assistance grants coming through as well for being some of the major contributors to that $19 million. Corporate performance planning and reporting, that's an extremely important part of our business, and as we know, we've been working through the formulation of a new corporate plan, so that's taken precedence. There's been numerous workshops with CEO elected members, as well as the directors and the program managers. And then part of that performance planning framework is going to the next level of actually creating a layer of corporate performance planning for the director level and subsequent managers' program plans. So I think that is a first for our council to have that additional strategic view at the ELT level. So we look forward to seeing what that might look like. The enterprise risk management is another major part of our business, and this month we've seen the second quarter strategic risk report be presented to the Audit Committee, with 2 controls of actions being noted there, but none that were really impacting on the business. So it's you know, well and truly managed by the team and reported to the Audit Committee. And of course, we're part of our corporate planning process. We're looking to invigorate our risk register and our risk planning process. So we'll have a bit of a new look document as far as that's concerned as well. The business improvement section of council was officially established on the 1st of February. So they've been working through the clarification of the key deliverables, and the first piece of work was really around the human resources review working group being established, and we see the Director of Organisational Services being the sponsor for that. Emergency management have been busy as well with a review of a number of plans. We see the cyclone shelter management sub-plan being reviewed, the bushfire mitigation sub-plan being reviewed, the power requirements for services and critical infrastructure, working with Ergon on that, as well as the disaster risk reduction. So really important part of our preparedness and making sure that we have all of those plans in place for whatever comes our way. And as we've seen throughout the state of Queensland and New South Wales, disasters can strike at any time. The SES have also been busy with some work being done, night searches at Serena and Campwell Beach, and we heard earlier the question around the retrieval of the binoculars. Terrible that the binoculars have been vandalised, but what a great exercise for our team members that perform the vertical rescue, the Moreni SES. And of course, cutting down some fallen trees is probably par for the course of SES business. So all in all, a very comprehensive report this month, and lots of activities with those additional reports coming through the Office of the Mayor and CEO.
Thanks, Councillor May. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Capital Works at 11.2.1, the Capital Works Monthly Review Report for February. Director.
Thank you, Worship. Morning, councillors. Presenting the Capital Works February 2022 report. Starting off with safety, good to see again no lost time injuries in the Directorate. We are continuing to see, however, some incidents, some quite minor, but still they are a concern from time to time, and there are 5 listed for the month there in the space that the contractor works. So we're continuing to focus on that with our contractors. As I said, some of them are quite minor, but they could lead to more major incidents and some dire outcomes. So we are working closely with them. We are tracking a lot of projects. We have a lot of contractors working for us, and they're all under as you might imagine, quite a bit of pressure, so we've just got to be cautious of that pressure not translating into poor practices in the field. So you can see there on the cover page 45 of the projects completed in month, probably a little bit less than we would have liked, and then a list of projects that are underway and expected to be completed in the next month. Of note, I suppose, through the portfolio management area is that we are finally at a point where we've done our assessment and at a point where we can appoint, we think, contractors to carry out our project management training. So this has been a little while coming, and something we need to do to bring together some of the skills in our departments. So that will be forthcoming pretty soon and welcomed by the staff to get our training underway. Also in that space, they're doing a great job, and I'd like to point out that they are tracking over 740 projects through the 3 stages of business case, design and construction, of course, throughout the year. So quite a lot of work for a very small team, and I'd just like to shout out to that team and the work they're doing at the moment. A few projects of note. Although they got a slow start, the contractors working at our Seagull Street boat ramp are doing a really good job. We're very happy with the quality of the work they're doing there, and you know, as you can imagine, they're working through a roster that is all around tides and some very old times around that. You know, coupled with some sort of tidal conditions which make it difficult, but they are doing nice work and expect to finish by the end of this month. Also last week I did visit the Kamala water softening plant site, and again, although they had a slow start in that project, they are doing a very good job, and had a long tour of the site to see how that plant is coming along. And so looking forward to that being completed again towards the end of this month. Just a couple of other projects of note that the community would be interested in. The Seaforth Master Plan, we now have 100% design in for that project, and so we're going through the process of working with our asset owners and other stakeholders to give us feedback on that design, make sure it is exactly as we need it to be, so we'll be ready to go out to tender very soon for that work. So that's quite exciting. And another one to note is we've got the 50% design in for the mountain bike trailhead at Finch Hatton. So again, that's progressing well. We're going through those drawings again in quite a bit of detail with our stakeholders and making sure they're meeting all their requirements, and we're looking forward to early next month having that design completed. So yeah, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Director. Certainly when you get it tabulated like that on the first page, where there's 8 major projects completed during the month and 14 underway as well. So it just shows you the size of what we work through in our capital works program. Is fantastic. Questions for the Director? Councillor Bonaventure has a question.
Yes, just in relation to page 48, capital expenditure forecast, it's with the delays, the variances. I note the poor old Dalrymple Street culvert replacement because of, again, tides and wet weather. Only 51% of the expected spend for the month was achieved. Just wanting to know what sort of delay or what the anticipated completion date for that project will now be.
Thanks, Councillor. Director?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because it's a relatively small job, but we did have quite a few little issues on that job. With tides coming into some of the excavation, it actually did cause some issues, and we had to stop work on site. We got quite close to undermining a light pole, so again, work had to stop and we had to shore up that. But the work is expected to be completed in about 3 weeks, so very early in April.
Councillor, you another one, Councillor?
I'll have another one, Bob, if you don't mind, Your Worship. Just in relation to, on page 49, I noticed the supply and installation of bus shelters. So it's close enough to $260,000 worth. Just wanting to know roughly how many that gets us, and is the breakdown, you know, rural, urban, or just roughly where they are? I don't need to know individual bus stops, but just roughly what they are.
Director, thank you.
Yeah, that contract's on page 50 of the report.
50.
Supply and installation of bus shelters.
Yes.
I think that's the one you mean.
That's the one I mean, sorry.
Yeah, so that supply contract is part of our, I suppose, their ongoing TMR agreement to put bus shelters in the region. That particular contract is just for the supply and install of the shelter itself. This contract involves about 15 shelters across the region. There are quite a few to list if you'd like me to go through them, but in general, there's about 3 in the city area, or Mackay city area, and then the rest are actually in sort of rural areas. So, Acacia, Slade Point, Bakers Creek, there's 3 in Marion, 1 in Morenni, 2 in Serena, so quite a few around the wider area.
So, Your Worship, just to get a better explanation of that, that's to supply the materials. That's not the assembly. That's not putting out the concrete slab.
Yeah, so that is just to put up the shelter once it's installed, and then we'll have another contract that does what's called the civil works. So the slab, any on-ground civil works, compliance with DDA requirements, and also linking into any infrastructure that's already there. So, for example, you might have curb and channel already in a location. They have to cut into that curb and channel, make the DDA compliant ramp work to get the final outcome and put the slab in. So yes, this contract is just for G. James to supply and install the shelter itself once that concrete enabling works is done. So, good.
And in-house, the rest of the works is in-house then?
No, that's contracted as well.
Oh, so the other works is contracted as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor England?
I'm good now, thanks, mate.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Seymour?
On Creek Street Lawn Road widening stages, is final coat going to be chip seal or asphalt? Because it's in a siding.
Director?
It would be chip seal in that location, but I don't know off the top of my head for sure, so I'll have to come back to you.
Okay. Further questions? Councillor May?
Just in regards, and I thank the Director for his update that he provided me, previous questions that I've asked in regards to the Pioneer River North Bank Shared Path. This question's around the, there's a huge amount of infrastructure going in to build that path, and I'm trying to remember back to when that project was presented to us as to why didn't we pick an alternative route around perhaps the back of the McDonald's and come in that way rather than having to construct this over the drain pathway that we're doing that's costing us $3 million. So I'm just sort of, was that ever looked at?
To be honest, I don't know the answer to that. I would have to go back and I suppose back to the history of the project and have a look at what options were presented early on. Certainly that would have been a option, but probably not the preferred one to go off the road, off the main road, and therefore out of sight. So yeah, I'm not too sure, Councillor. We can come back with a bit of background on those options if you like.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind just sort of, because I can't remember myself what the options were when they were presented to council.
Yeah.
Just sort of, yeah. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions? No further questions? Somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor England moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Worship. As the Director said, no lost time injuries. The usual suspects are responsible for the top 5 variances again, those being supply chain delays and the inclement weather. The Pioneer River North Bank, which was just discussed, it's good to see something on the ground so we don't have to keep explaining to people how we're going to levitate a walkway over the top of it. There's been some ongoing COVID-related issues and resourcing again with that project. The revised date for that is, I believe, April this year. The Walnut Street Drain Reconstruction stage, that's a really good indication, those photos, of the amount of work that's needed to go into constructing those. And that one should also be sorted by April this year. Riverside revitalisation, that tender went out in January, and we anticipate the site establishment in mid-March and the conclusion in later this year. The Pioneer Valley mountain bike trails, the concept for all trailhead, including the pump track, toilets, showers, bike racks, access to the site, trails, parking, event and camping space, and the open recreational space. So it's good to see some movement. We can go to the community and say, look, we're getting stuff done on this, and at previous briefings we're going to go a step further, which will inform the community of very shortly. But the UE have also commenced their cultural heritage investigation with some on-site field work, which is good to see. Seagull Street boat ramp, and again delays as discussed by the Director, but practical completion in April this year with line marking in May, and year-to-date project spend is 63 million, and it's approximately at 95%, so not so bad. Consider it.
Thanks very much, Councillor England. Speaker against? Any other speakers? No. Councillor Monaman.
No, sorry.
He's just so keen.
Okay, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thanks. 11.3.1, the Community and Client Services monthly review for February. Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning, councillors. It's pleasing to be able to present the Community and Client Services Department report to you. As mentioned, there are no lost time injuries. With the removal of mask mandate, we look forward to those customer service aggressive behaviours reducing. I'd just like to commend the staff in the libraries, in art space, in MEC, and all of the front-facing services and facilities that we have for their great work over those couple of months when masks were required, and put an extra layer of their service to the fore, and they did a remarkable job, and it's great that their wellbeing was looked after across that period as well. In terms of activities for the month, we launched the My Legendary Neighbour campaign. This is an important campaign to highlight the social connection. We know from the COVID-19 community attitude surveys that support around social connectedness is one of the things that people found as a legacy kind of requirement from the pandemic. So it's great to be able to profile great examples of community spiritedness and neighbourhood actions, and promoting those and hopefully inspiring others to do the same in their local neighbourhoods. Community engagement in corporate communications and marketing undertook the community engagement at Alsatia Park at Walkerston now that the play equipment is coming to end of life. I think half of the councillors were there. There was about 30 members of the public. It was in a COVID environment, so we were COVID safe, but it didn't stop the residents coming out and having their say. There's also the online feedback available through Connecting Mackay, and that was taking place up until the end of this week as well. It's great that the community are really helping to shape what will be the future of Alsatia Park there. Sports Expo was concluded across the month of February. We had 5,114 individual views of the online portal. We had to go online late. We'd always designed that it was going to be online as well as in person. We had to move away from the in-person again for the second year in a row, but having over 5,000 views, and we can consider that some of those are representative of family members or family groups as well. So, we can feel very comfortable that, that fulfilled its objectives of keeping people active and healthy, which is really important in these times as well. There were also over 30 come and try days, so we'll be going back out and getting some feedback from community members who participated, and also the club as well, so I look forward to providing some further feedback on that activity. Art Space took the opportunity to move some of their popular exhibitions online, so we've got Jasmine Togo Brisby's Home Sweet Home exhibition and our local UE artist Dylan Mooney both have exhibitions at the moment. So given that we couldn't do community programs, we did some 3D virtual tours for those, and they've been very well received by community as well. In the MEC, we had to spend some time across the month postponing events, and so we hope that those things will start to play out and bring community back together at the MEC across the rest of the year. But in the meantime, they were still able to install some bar TVs, which is great for enhancing the customer experience. They can see what the menu options are. They can make informed choices before getting there. So it just helps with that interaction that they have there. And also we had some of our festivals and development team go to the Get Local exhibition in Sydney, which had over 150 event buyers represented. So it's great that we could be there alongside that economic development to promote the Mackay region, but also the MEC. And we hope that with the return of the conference market, that we're well placed to take advantage of some of the leads that we got from that event as well. Finally, it's pleasing to be able to advise that through the Local Government Illegal Dumping Partnership Program, we were successful in getting funding for an illegal dumping officer in the compliance team. Council spends $1.3 million across a number of services dealing with illegal dumping or littering. So it's great to have an officer who can be proactive in investigating illegal dumping issues and contribute to community education in that area as well.
Thank you very much, Director. Questions for the Director? Councillor Mann.
Electronic page 84, there's details about the number of bookings for Antigrove Community Hall. I just wondered why it would be in this report when it sits with organisational services.
Okay.
The Antigrove Community Hall was presented back to council late last year through organisation services, given that the long-time manager, who was a community member, was wanting to relinquish that responsibility, and rather than going back out to find another member of community, we wanted to take the opportunity to undertake a trial from within Community and Client Services using our own experience managing Jubilee Community Centre, but also taking advantage of the network that we have inside of council as well, like financial services, customer services, property services. So to really find out from inside, what the management of the community halls could be in terms of a practice and in terms of an operating model going forward. So we've concluded our trial period. We've made some recommendations, and so we're working through that process at the moment, but we've been very happy with how we've been able to bring the management expertise into that area in a fairly seamless way.
Councillor May.
Just a follow-on question in regards to that. Similar to the Serena Neighbourhood Centre, where the department actually funds some of that position, or if not all of it, are we looking to perhaps having some conversations with the state about perhaps putting an officer permanently at the neighbourhood centre there and establishing that as a bit of a community hub?
In Serena, you mean?
No, in
Antigrove. Antigrove. Well, we have only looked at the operational side of things at Antigrove at the moment. We'll probably be more focused on how our experience there relates to all of the other community halls that we have across the region in terms of their usage profile and also how they're operated, and that kind of, once again, making sure the community can take advantage of the assets that we've got by having a good kind of experience with us related to money handling, site inspections and the like, but we haven't gone to that other level yet.
Councillor Ballard.
My question relates to regulatory services. I'm just wondering how many businesses we have that we're aware of are operating currently in a region without the correct approvals, and how long that has been going on. Do we have any outstanding issues? What are our normal timeframes, and are any of them exceeding our timeframes?
Okay. So the first point that you bring is that we're aware of it. So we're typically guided by community, and often when there's some level of additional intensity around a business activity, that might prompt a member of community to come forward and make that known to council. So we have 39 open cases at the moment, so in the regulatory services area. So that doesn't take into account any things that might include plumbing approvals, trade waste, food, things that are specific to their industry, but from a health and regulatory side of things. So of that 39, 21 are operating without a development application. 3 of them are operating without a certificate of classification. 4 are in conflict to their development approval, so they're operating on what they said that they were going to, and 11 are operating from a residential dwelling, a hairdresser, say for example. So then of those 39 cases, we've got 16 that are less than 3 months, 5 that are between 3 and 6 months, 1 that is between 7 and 12 months, and 17 that are more than 1 year. So these, we get into some fairly individualised kind of cases that we need to manage now. We always manage them in a compliance rather than enforcement basis. So where the business owner is looking to continually move to the next level, we keep moving with them. We don't have too many cases where there's a failure to comply to say where we're no longer going to move down this process, but should that be the case, then we refer those to legal services. So what we do ask of those ones that are non-compliant, particularly where we know that they're not going to be able to get a development application for that place that they are, we work on an exit strategy with that owner. And we've got to remember that some of these owners have assets tied up in that area. They have employees as well, so and often they may have trouble still affording what's needed to get to the next level of approval. They may have personal circumstances that prevent them from doing so as well. So there's a myriad of cases, and but what we, like I said before, as long as they're showing intent towards things, we will work with them. The ones that are over 12 months, some of them relate to a development on the northern beaches, so that where it was originally built for economic purposes, that the owner got into trouble, sold those apartments individually. So now those they're being used as ongoing dwellings, where it really should be for short term. So 7 of the 17 are tied up there. Another 3 are tied up with an individual owner related to the storing of cars on properties. So we'll be looking at going through another process with that owner as well. So I hope that provides sufficient detail.
It's very comprehensive, thank
Very
you.
good, yes. Thanks, Director. Councillor Green.
Yes, thank you. On electronic page 86, the Access Inclusion Reference Group, I see that expressions of interest for group membership for 2022 has been distributed. Who and how has that been distributed, and when do applications close? Please.
It would be distributed through our...
You're right.
Sorry.
Keep going.
It would be distributed through our usual networks, so the community sector, My Community network, our newsletter and distribution network, as well as being generally available on the Mackay Regional Council website as well. I'm unsure of the closing date for that. I would need to come back to you.
Further questions? No further questions for the Director. Thanks very much, Director. Well done. Would somebody like to move the Community and Client Services Monthly Review for February? Councillor Mann moves, second by Councillor Townsend. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Richard. I was just reflecting on what a lot of detail there is in the report. Certainly a very, very busy month for the department. It's really pleasing to see Youth Week activities really well in advance. Planning is advanced, with 3 open-air movie nights being planned for Marion, Serena and Mackay in early April, and I think they will be really well received, particularly with our community crying out for events to go to. There's also going to be a travelling photo exhibition that will accompany the movie nights, and works from Valley and Serena people will be displayed, so young people will be displayed, so I'm sure there'll be some fantastic photos there. Home Library Service saw 993 loans and 7 new members. I think the number of loans indicates how valuable that service is to our community, particularly for people who are isolated, whether that's by geographic isolation or other reasons, but certainly very valuable in the region. Events scheduled for MECC have remained challenged with COVID impacts and with cancellations and postponements of events, and sadly Zonta's International Women's Day was one of those events. That's our signature event, and we made the tough decision to cancel it for this year, but hopefully we'll be back bigger and better next year. Festival of Arts, well and truly, the planning is well and truly underway, and planning for the very popular Wine and Food Day is well underway as well. Health and Regulatory Services had a very busy month with a total of 681 requests for service. It's interesting to note too that there was 24 abandoned vehicles for the month, and I don't know whether that's higher or not, but you certainly seem to see a lot more abandoned vehicles around the region. And the acting CEO has touched on it, and so has the Director, and I just find it appalling, the aggressive behaviour that our staff are subjected to, and the level of distress that would cause. And I just remind people, treat our staff how you'd like to be treated, because that aggressive behaviour is just not acceptable in any situation.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Councillor Mann. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Jones speaking for.
Thank you, Worship. I guess my 2 take-homes from this report this month it is mainly around the overview of consultation within our community. Page 86, the old 1000, Youth Out Loud 1000, has been a long but important project. So many times we hear as councillors, what is there for kids to do in this town? And consultation is the only way to get this right, rather than do it ad hoc. So the core team of YOL 1000, their mandate was to have 1,000 conversations with young people. And it's pleasing to see that here we are at the light at the end of the tunnel, sitting at 819 conversations to date. and a couple of workshops coming up shortly. So I'm really looking forward to the final outcome for the youth of Mackay. Page 109, I also wanted to mention community engagement. There's an overview there, and it shows the Connecting Mackay offering the opportunity for our community to have a say. This month there are 12 current projects, and 9 of them which are boring but very much important basic infrastructure that we need, things like roads, drainage and water. But there are 2, if you want to call them sexy projects, that the community will enjoy, and that is certainly our Alsatia Park consultation, which we've already spoke about, is open for comment on Connecting Mackay. And as part of the Pioneer Valley Mountain Bike Trails project, Council supporting once again local businesses with the small business mentoring program. So I ask anybody up the valley that are having an idea of maybe a business or are already in business to go check out the page. Thank you, Worship.
Thanks very much, Councillor Jones. I think we've got 19 applications for that program for businesses under there. It's fantastic. Councillor Ballard, speaking for.
Over the last couple of weeks, I took a couple of days to go and inspect a few different sites, Alsatia Park being one of them, and I was quite disappointed in actually, as I drove away from there, going past an area where I've brought up a number of times has an infestation of giant rat's tail grass. I've gone on about this time and time again. What is disappointing is not only aren't we kept up to date with what's going on about it, this has actually worsened. And it's in a situation where it's passed by everyone that works out over the top and everyone that goes to one of our heritage sites. These pests are not only damaging economically, they are very damaging to our natural environment, but also reputationally to our council. Now, I have photos here, which I've shown, which shows a paddock that resembles a wheat field. Now, this has thickened up tenfold since I first reported it. I don't know what steps we've taken to clean this up, and quite frankly, it's a disgrace. Now, I'm actually thinking that we've got people in this council and are getting back to councillors. When we get a complaint from someone, we pass it on. It's one of the core functions of a councillor. Now, the returns are ad hoc at best, and staying on top of issues that can't be just resolved immediately should be something we get periodic reporting on. This is not a criticism of individual people. They're working as hard as they can, but I use the analogy of a boat that's leaking. You know, you can bail enough, well, more than 2 men would bail, but if the hole's big enough, obviously the system's not working. It's time to start the pumps. The system isn't working. And using that paddock as an example, the cost to that paddock would have been $700 for a 20 litre drum, which might have done half of the paddock. It is now $1,400 a drum as of 2 months ago. So it's doubled. Now our chances of control are less. They're slashing along the inside of the fence, we're slashing outside the fence. And while we may not slash over the rat's tail there, we're almost without a doubt getting seeding on it. So this is just one symptom of a problem we've got. We need to fix our system, our reporting system to councillors, not only for individual problems, but ongoing issues so that we can get back to people and say what we've done. Because to be perfectly honest, that paddock is an embarrassment to us.
Thanks very much, Councillor Ballard. I've spoken to the CEO since you come to see me, and we'll certainly take that on. Well, obviously now it's minuted. CEO, in terms of the paddock, you have some limited power, but the power that we exercise in terms of that private property, it takes a long time to exercise it. Do you want to follow that up with any statement at all?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. So I don't have any background detail on this particular one, Councillor, but I'll look into it. Generally speaking, our first approach is always to work with the landowner, the property holder, and actually achieve some mutually beneficial outcomes there. We do have some limited powers, as Your Worship mentions, where if they're not willing to work with us or comply, then we can issue biosecurity orders under the Biosecurity Act. But that is something that we do very rarely because we generally see good cooperation with property owners throughout our region. So I don't know where we're at with this particular one, but I'll look into it and be able to report back to you then.
Okay. All right, any further speakers to the motion? You're speaking for Councillor Bonaventura.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Director took most of my thunder in relation to the online sports expo, but I'd just like to say, a part of it, there were firstly 24 posts on a Facebook during February. That's nearly one every day, with a total of 87 shares, 5,813 post clicks. And these posts reached approximately 93,000 people. So, look, I'm hopeful that our online expo will result in an increase in participation in sport within our region. And I'd like to thank, firstly, Corporate Communications for working with our Sport and Rec team, and also Councillors Hassan, Seymour and Jones, and the Sports Expo Committee. As Chair, I've appreciated their assistance through all this, and I really look forward to our debrief to see how what we felt, what improvements and what overall results were. So, thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bonaventura. Any other speakers? Councillor Townsend, speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just like to highlight Neighbourhood Day, which we're celebrating on March the 27th, and try and encourage our community to nominate their neighbours if they're doing some wonderful acts. I personally have great neighbours who are there to assist my husband and I at any time. Our way of saying thanks is a coldie over the back fence, but it's very worthy to nominate these great people that are out there helping their neighbours. So you just need to go to the website and nominate your neighbour hero. I would just like to talk about Alsatia Park. It was great to engage with the local community out there to discuss the concept plan for the upgrade, and some great ideas were submitted by the community. They certainly got involved, but I'd like to note that there were some young boys who were very entrepreneurial and were putting 6 or 7 sticky notes on each little thing, and it was all football posts, and they got in their little huddle and they were writing football posts and that. So they'll be very disappointed if they don't get any football posts out there. And lastly, I'd just like to say that I had the pleasure of attending the Resource Industry Network yesterday, and what a wonderful day with over 500 people there, and the guest speaker, Chloe McCardle. How inspirational was she? And she's swum the English Channel 22 times. So if that's not a demonstration of a woman who's got tenacity and determination, I don't know what is. So it was a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Townsend. I think she called herself crazy, but it certainly was a great event. Further speakers? Councillor Green, speaking for.
Yeah, just briefly, look, just back on the Access and Inclusion Reference Group and with the call out for membership for 2022, I really hope that we get a lot of, or some applications for families or families with children with disabilities. We've got some fantastic projects coming up, such as Woodlands Park, and I really would love to see that we've got great stakeholder engagement in that group for these projects. So if you know of anyone that you can encourage to put an expression of interest forward, that's in that group in particular, because I think that is an area that's not been represented well on that committee. It would be great to see that we have that inclusion.
Thanks, Councillor Green. Any further speakers? No further speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. There's no petitions today, there's no tenders today, no notified motions, there's nobody in the public gallery. Late business. Councillor Bell.
I just thought I'd take this opportunity, it's rather sobering, but we've been hearing for quite a while about a disease called ehrlichiosis that is affecting dogs. It's now been found in Mackay. It has a death rate of 1 in 10. It's spread by brown tick. And I just take this opportunity and ask us if we can get it out and around, that people need to start, 1, inspecting their dogs, 2, keeping their tick and flea treatments up to date, and wearing a tick and flea collar. This is not an ice disease. as I said, 1 in 10 survivors are often left with ongoing symptoms that really make the dog's life pretty ordinary. And if anyone's, seen things like parvo and whatever and the effect it has on dogs, you'll understand what I'm talking about. This disease, however, there's no way to vaccinate against it. So it's just continual vigilance. And like I said, it's now in Mackay. It's been diagnosed in Mackay. From our point of view, we've got 5 dogs down there, supposedly working dogs. They're only half decent, so we've actually only got probably 2 that are effective, but it would be a tragedy to see any of them catch this disease. The problem is the more dogs that get it, the more it's going to be spread. So that's the object of me speaking today, but anything that we can do to spread that message to the general public, I think is worthwhile. Thank you.
Let's get it on our social media. See you. Okay, thank you. Further late business. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I've got a couple of things. We've heard some speak this morning about the neighbourhood legendary neighbour, but just to follow on from that, Council has planned 5 visits to the region and encouraging people to come and have a cuppa and talk about your neighbour, celebrate Neighbourhood Day. So starting on the 18th of March up at St Helens Beach, we're going to Armstrong Street, Barley, Moreni Community Hall, the Palms down at Serena Beach Motel, the Eaton Oval and Slade Point Community Gardens, all on different days, different times. Go to the website and check in there and come and have a cuppa with to celebrate Neighbourhood Day. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the release of the Land of the Clouds Youngler book. Great, absolutely fantastic. It was a project that's been a long time in the wings. The Queensland Museum Discovery Guide series, and it's been published by the Queensland Museum in conjunction with Mackay Regional Council. And the book offers an overview of Youngler's geography, botany, zoology and history, as well as the natural and cultural value, and some absolutely amazing photos. I don't know whether anybody's had a chance to have a look at it, but it is just spectacular. So hopefully it'll be a great resource for our region. It'll be a great resource for visitors that come to our region, because you'll be able to discover a whole range of things around Youngler that you probably didn't know were there. So very, very unique. And what I'd like to do is give a shout out to our past Director of Organisational Services, Dan McKinlay, whose name is mentioned in the book, who was really the go-to person here in the council and really drove the project from the council side of things. So congratulations to Dan for sticking with it, because this project actually started in the first term of the regional council, post-amalgamation. So that's how long it's taken to get this fabulous resource on the ground and out and about. And just to note that the councillors who put up their hand will be over the next few weeks distributing a copy of this publication to all of the schools in our Mackay region. So of course we'll have some at our libraries as well, but it's a great opportunity to get out and visit the schools and present this publication to all of the schools throughout the region. So a job well done, absolutely fantastic. Just before I finish, I really wanted to add my congratulations to the International Women's Day event, which was held yesterday, organised by the Resource Industry Network, 520 people. It was just magnificent to walk into the MECC and see that plenary hall absolutely full. The speakers were first class, the panel was great. I think Karen Jacobson did a great job at emceeing as well. And I think it's really great to be able to take time out of our busy lives to think, let's celebrate International Women's Day. And I look on Facebook and I look in the media, and there were some great events across our region that people were participating and celebrating. So well done. And to the MEC staff, absolutely take our hat off to them. Serving 520 meals in a very short period of time is no easy feat, and they did a fantastic job.
Thanks very much, Councillor May. Councillor Bonangera, late business.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, I'll follow on from Councillor May in relation to Neighbour Day. And Habana is linking Neighbour Day and Australia Day because unfortunately when COVID was around, we postponed our Australia Day. So we're going to do 2 in 1, so we double up at a banner. So there's going to be food trucks, a live band, inflatable
banner again on Neighbour Day.
an inflatable water slide for the kids. So it's going to be a great afternoon. So we'll do ours on Saturday the 26th. Our local band is called Pure Vintage, so that could give you some idea about the age of its members, but they do a great job. So it's a great day, family-free afternoon, and thanks again also to Mackay Regional Council for their sponsorship of the Australia Day event, part of it. But yeah, great family event, so I invite everyone to come out and enjoy the afternoon and evening with us. Food trucks, everything's there.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bonaventura. And certainly the Neighbourhood Day went off exceptionally well last year. And yeah, the winners last year was a great community. One of our directors lives in that community, and was certainly surprised to see that it was in his street. It was fantastic. It was a really well supported event and some tremendous salutations to neighbours that came out last year. Hopefully it'll be the same this year. All right, no further late business. Let's move on. We've got in confidential reports 1 to consider, and that's the draft minutes of the Invest Mackay Events and Conference Attraction Program. Anybody want to move into? You want to? Somebody like to move that the meeting be closed? Councillor Jones moves. Councillor Bonaventura seconds. Those in favour? Any against? And we're back. Okay. There's only one in confidential report, 17.1, the draft minutes of the Invest Mackay Events and Conference Attraction Program Advisory Committee meeting of the 21st of February. Would somebody like to move the adoption? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor England. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. And that's it, councillors. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you, CEO. Thank you, directors. I declare the meeting closed.